Hey guys, I've got a group chat going. If you're interested. We can ask questions online or through regular Hangouts. Who's the person who just joined? It's other than me. Anybody here? No, I have strings. If you're on the Slack channel, feel free to post questions. Hey guys, feel free to post questions in the group chat on Hangouts or also on Slack if you're watching. Any questions you have for maybe how to do stuff in your app or things that you're looking to do or just general errors that you're having. Hey peeps, post your questions and I'll try to answer them. But do you guys want to keep with this format or do you want to go to just a regular Hangouts where everybody can join? Create a Hangout. Does anybody want to be invited to the Hangout, or so that we can have it be like multi-person so other people can talk? Yes? No? Maybe so? Live office hours. Or would you rather that it just be if you guys need help or something? So if you guys were wondering, like, maybe how do I share to email or text or, you know, actually like open up the phone, you're going to want to look at intents. And when we start talking about being able to like attach emails with images and that kind of stuff, you're going to want to use the MIME type for that and make sure it's the right kind. Because basically, you have to kind of cater it to applications that can receive those types. So if we're looking at just declaring basic text, where you've like inserted a URL, a lot of times like Facebook and Google Plus and stuff will actually pick that up and put a tiny version or like the miniaturized version with the title and everything. When you actually do the share, it will pick up that it's HTML content from that link. Now, that way you don't have to like insert an image, and then that way you can also share it to the maximum number of things. But when you actually specify like to share via text specifically, then you need to use like a URI and like what the specific content is and the title. And you can also send like MMS, SMS stuff. So if you just send text, it's going to be an SMS. But if you wanted to also send like the picture, then you need to specify like the URI type in the intent, and it will pick it up. And then that way you can actually send like pictures and stuff. So that's actually pretty cool. Sharing content is really easy, and Android also was really convenient in that it added a feature a while back to be able to automatically add a share prompt to your screen without having to write that into the toolbar or anything. And then you can also specify the share actions on those. It's basically just an on share click. And then you pass in whatever the intent is that you want to happen on that button click. And that can be different in different screens, right? So that's also good. Does anybody have any questions on like how to use GPS properly and things? If you were at the session last week, we on last week's Thursday, we did a special session on sensor gathering and how to use those correctly. The same principles apply to location information. So when we did it in class, we did it based off of accelerometer, and we specified how often we want to get updates, when do we want to have them listen, when do we want it to not listen so that we're not using battery. And when it comes to GPS and location, you have to really think about the fact of, do I actually need the granularity of GPS, or can I say, let's say I live in Carrollton, right? Or the makerspace is in Carrollton. Do I just want to share that this was something that is specific to something that's going on in Carrollton, or do I care that it's something specific to going on a particular street in Carrollton or something along those lines? Because if I need just really basic information, I can do that through just mobile location or last known location, versus actually having to fire up the GPS to get that. The other thing that you can do with GPS more specifically is if there's another application that has queued for GPS, instead of you actually having to do the queuing, you can actually kind of tag onto their queues, so it actually doesn't count against the battery of your app, plus then you're being really smart about it. Google also has service. You should also bundle your requests and data that you're sending up. I made a presentation about this a little while ago, especially those of you who are using Firebase APIs. Be careful that you're not sending stuff when the user isn't using the app, unless it's once every great one in a while, especially if you're doing something location-based, again. So those are just some helpful hints for stuff that a lot of you guys are actually looking to do. Does anybody have any specific questions? So if you have specific code and things like that you want to go over, post it to the Slack channel. It's just sometimes easier to say things out here. So Firebase is basically for Android, they've basically encapsulated what used to just be a database service. So they've actually got a new set of APIs to be able to retrieve information, although it's extremely similar to how it used to be. So I've actually only used it 2 or 3 times to get info. The question is are you trying to push information a la a push server, something that has to be queued or that's constantly received, or are you trying to I'm going to go ahead and say Technoprobic, you just pushed up I think the old doc. They have a new one, which is on the google.com/Firebase or something like that, that I posted a little bit previously. I can't remember if it was to Manas or Shobit, but they changed a couple of the API calls. You're trying to receive data from a specific child. Do you have a key value pair associated with it? Sorry, I've got my laptop right over here so that I can kind of quickly address things. So let me see if I can do this, see what's going on. So which child are you, so what does your like data actually look like? Are you looking for are you looking for an event-based thing, or if the child is added, or are you trying to, what are you trying to do? Just, are you doing it based off of things that have changed, or how are you doing it? Because this is kind of the old way, but they didn't really change it much, and I'll post that in there. So yeah, a little snip might actually help, because you should be able to just do like a get value from it. And you should be able to use like key value pairs. Like this is a good way right there. So that's actually a more direct example. Is this what you're kind of looking for? Okay, cool. Yay. Does anybody have like any questions on like how to do certain things that they're looking to do? I know that like it can be hard sometimes to be able to search effectively on Stack Overflow. It's not always the most fun. But you know what? We may cut this a little bit short by like 8 o'clock or so if we don't have like consistent questions. Excuse me. Yeah, so that actually, the example I just gave you, like, should work directly. Yeah, because he took a very similar way to what you just did for accessing that. It's like almost directly like the same deal. Do you see how it's structured and how he's got it set up? And then the answer. Why would it split it at symbol? That doesn't really make sense. Does it assign it like a key value pair? See, that's weird because you know what you really should be doing, honestly, for when you're doing the emails, like don't save it as a single string, because like the @ symbol, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a safe, quote to speak, safe string. If you're really just having a problem with that, why not just put it in, automatically do a split that happens when you store it for the like user and then the domain for the email. If that's like the only issue that you're facing with it, then why not just automatically split it between user and domain for the email, and then just concatenate it back with the @ symbol when it returns. Yeah, we can totally ask more questions. Go ahead, Scorpio. Hey, does anybody have any questions? Scorpio, you seemed like you had another question. Are you gonna ask any more questions tonight? 'Cause I'm here to answer your questions. So there's an important thing that, sorry, I'm just trying to wonder why this thing came on. So when I was talking about retrofit, if you have a RESTful API that's using kind of a standard like parsing logic or parser that needs to be used, retrofit is really nice and easy, because what it does is you can basically pass in your JSON call and automatically you get back an interface. Shobit, why don't you just, do you mind if we answer his question first? So when using retrofit, I wrote this really quick thing. It's actually on SlideShare. Let me pull it up. All right, let me just pull it in. Shoot. Come on, questions. All right. .NET. Okay, just a second. All right, let me just find this. All right, so I actually wrote a quick little like how-to using basically a like how to use it type thing in slides, like and what it is and what you would use it for. So it basically takes your standard RESTful API request and turns it into a Java interface so that it's really easy for you to access all of the items that come back. Now, when we start talking about if you have something that is basically an RSS feed, you'd use something else there, but sometimes RSS feeds even have like a JSON type object that they use and then passes you like a link to the RSS feed. Do you know how the data is actually structured? Like, do you know what the request looks like and what kind of data that you get back? Or is it like, yeah, because it might be that it's not, if it's not like a request with parameters or it doesn't return back unique data, or even if it's like CSV, like you can use maybe one of the parsers, but remember that the request is going to be slightly different. So yeah. So what other question did you have, Shobit? Hello, Shobit, did you have another question? Or did anybody else have any other questions? I mean, what? Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to see if there's a quicker thing. Now, what you may also want to look at is this. I'm going to send you, well, it may not be because I'm not really familiar exactly with the problem that you're having. Because when I've used Firebase to send stuff up and back, I've not really had an issue with not being able to grab the data. So when we look at the quick start for storage, let's look at that. Are you looking for a real-time database that you're using, or are you using a like small database? I'm trying to figure out what to send you. So database, Android. Okay, let's see. Main. Okay, so that's going. Okay, so you're doing real-time database? Okay. Let's see. Yeah, I'm reading through their example code to try and find you the exact piece that you'll want. Okay, so this is a really good example for how that actually. So what they actually have here in the example app, and I don't know if you've actually looked at building this component, the Quick Start Android database. So what they actually have is something to be able to add a post and then be able to view it. And so in order to view the post, you actually need to be able to grab those children. So when we're talking about being able to take the Firebase database and then grab the instance, I can see that you put the new values in, but this is how you actually retrieve it. You get the reference, then you get the child posts, and then you use the key that particular one, right? What the fudge? Did it just knock me out of my own channel for some reason? What the fudge? It just knocked me out. Why is that? No, I need to join another channel. What is going on? Okay, so for some reason it kicked me out. Let me grab my phone. I'm going to close this and then reopen it for Scud Cloud. All right. So if you're trying to grab the information off of a specific one, so I want you to look at the post reference and the comment reference where they're actually giving you the references, and then from there you want to take like the value event listener, then add it and be able to view it from the children. So this is actually really simplified, but you have to be able to grab each new one as you look at what the comment was from the remote database. So see how it says like on child changed at the bottom? Line 211. Inside of the recycler view, which starts at 179. Right. Yeah, you have to have some kind of key to denote that. And you can also make like a set of keys. Are you trying, like, it's not going to know how to, like, everything in the database works on some kind of key value pair that has to do with like children, right? So you can have one database with many children, but each one of those children has to have a key value pair. If you don't know what your key is, you can't get your value. Does that make sense? So like each one of these children is going to have like a specific assignment to them. Well, if that's, you'd have to assign that when generating the child, right? So you have to be, if you wanted to just use user ID, you'd have to assign it before even making the other stuff. Does that make sense? So if you're going to have this structure like that, you like essentially you have to, no matter what, you still have to have some kind of key. You can't use the user ID as the key because it's not an identifier. So when you start looking at what you're not going to be able to use user ID because the key top is right above it, right? That K0 FRHO whatever, right? So if you want to have the user ID be the key, that's something that you would have to like assign as a group, right? And then make all of the children part of that same group when it gets, new stuff gets generated, right? So it really your problem is really how you've structured putting in the data, not so much like how you're, I mean, it really should be abstracted anyway, because you don't want to have a situation also that like user ID is being used to like as the identifier. Like you could, there's two schools of thought here, right? So you could have each thing has a list of participating like IDs, like user IDs contained within it as like a structure. And this is really what Firebase prefers. Or you can make a key that assigned for a specific user that stores a whole bunch of stuff in one piece. Or, and that's like, if you wanted to make a user specific like child system, but it really depends on what you're trying to do. So if you're trying to do a game with a score and there's multiple types of games, you'd probably want to have all of that be under like the specific games and not under the user. But if you wanted to have like just one or maybe two games, maybe you could put it just under the user. Right. So the problem, so you're actually within, so you do have a unique identifier in A, B, C, D, E, F, right? So, right. But you're not able to get score and user ID when you generate that child? So if your score is this and you want it to update, I mean, it's the same. I would really just say the best thing for you, given what you're doing, is in a lot of ways, copy the structural code that's being used for the authentication and everything else in the quick start guide. Because I think you may have some stuff that's just kind of, it might be a little harder to debug than it would be to take some of that structure and build it out based off of the example code that they're giving you. So like when you see like the views and models that are being used, so like the post, the comment, the user, you could do the same thing, but just change the data structure that like the key value pairs, right? Because you could do the same thing in there. So like there's titles and things like that. So that might be your best option, in all honesty, because, you know, sometimes it's better to scrub away that stuff than it is to try and go back and fix it, especially when it's something so simple and really doesn't have to be that complicated. And you've probably got a lot of stuff that's different in various areas. I would honestly, if, you know, in my position, anything like that, take the example code, make sure that works, and then copy the needed bits that I need to make that go, and just build it from there. Because I think you started from like their guides rather than maybe their example app, or which way did you start? Because sometimes that can cause some confusions too. Yes, they are. You said you have a real-time scenario that you want to run. Okay, so that's a little bit different. So let me see if they've got a good example for that. It might be in config. Yeah, config's probably the best example for what you're trying to do right here. So you can see that when it grabs it, they just give it a name, a specific thing, right? They actually call it config. And then you see how it still does a listener-based scenario, because remember that everything that you have, like they've basically taken the async model to heart in the way that they built it, because everything has like a completion stage and return info, because, you know, it has to be success or fail. But for what you're doing is essentially just the simplified fetch with just whether or not it's yay or nay, right? So once we've fetched it, so you can see in line 115, we're actually doing a fetch. We pull it in, and then if you wanted to be able to get like all the information for multiple users, you would then just use your like key value pair, just like they are in display price at 140, and be able to grab the values off of that. Right, so you see where it has like initial price, and then you see where it has like get Boolean, so you can get multiple things. Are you trying to compare with other people? Okay. Does this help you? So if we put like those users into the information, and then we make the reference to it, we do those updates, and then on complete, we get it. Oh, you're literally looking for this answer when you get the okay from the login. So I think the more important question is like, is just the like on child change like not working as far as the listener goes? Like, because as soon as they log in, you're going to have a new instance from that user, and it should be retrievable from there. Or are you trying to not store any of that information locally, or what are you trying to do there? Literally, this is like the code. Do you see that? So that's something that would happen, and you would get the user value right there, right? So I'm giving you a very simplified example, right? So here we want to get the value from that data snapshot for the user, right? So we put in a user ID. I thought you were just trying to get the values, not do a database query. Is this what you're basically trying to do? So if we take like that child thing, so we take the database, and then which could be based off of like the regular thing, and then move down through it based off of the database reference. Right. But you would have to add like an additional child to that, right? So you would do the child based off of, the next user piece, right? If you wanted to just get like a specific piece of information. So do you see that query piece that I just gave you?
Your office hours going good?
Yep.
People are online chatting?
Yep.
Good.
think this might be an end-to-end example for what you are specifically trying to do. Yeah, this is probably the best one I've seen thus far. Have you seen this one? It's also using like the users and the UUIDs and then the information from it as well. It's actually showing you what's happening in the database as you're doing it. So the saving and the retrieving of the data as it happens. And then how to retrieve those exact items in the to-do list for that user. So it's literally line items like how you're talking here. So that as soon as they've logged back in, you get that data. It's got the login portion as well as object mapping for the multiple items. And it even goes through like how to go through the data structure and everything. All right, guys, I think I'm only going to be up for like another couple of minutes. If you have any other questions, I guess, shoot them to me online. And the biggest thing that I'm trying to teach you guys is like to persevere through like code problems that you might have. If you're wondering why I don't just go in and like directly fix your code, but try to address like more like this is how you read these examples and do this stuff, because that's the actual important bit of coding. Like a lot of times there's not going to be somebody to actually like help you write your code for you, but that can provide like multiple examples after trying to understand what you're trying to do. So did that actually end up helping you? So that's the feed. So that actually, let's see if there's an RSS feed thing. I think that might be an RSS feed. RSS reader. Let's see. No, but it's not XML, so that's weird. That looks like what format is that? Almost like it's a JSON, but it's kind of weird. In this minified like world. All right, so what's the okay, so it's vCalendar 2.0. Is this vCalendar that you need to parse? Yep, that looks a lot like it. Okay. So what's kind of cool is there might be a actual Google Calendar plugin for this. vCalendar. Yeah. Okay, so this might be actually helpful to you. So what you actually have here is vCal. So that one's actually like just a Java. And it does look like the actual calendar app has support for vCalendar, but I don't know if you can send it, how you would want to send it vCal information. Oh yeah, there's totally one embedded in the actual like Android source code, so you can see this is actually built into the source and it supports both. So if we have a vCal and it kind of depends on how you want to actually do stuff with it. So if you're literally just looking to pull the calendar information and then create your own views of that, I mean, I would honestly just use the existing one that I put up at the beginning, iCal4j. And then pass the, what you can do is actually take that URL and just have it directly stream from that every time it does the object, and then parse it and then show it, or which is probably like the easiest way to start out, and then be able to actually save those as queries that happen periodically to that feed so that you can update individual information. And what's nice is that it does let you just have like regular calendar events. So for like the V card, shows you like the example right in here for how to do that. Does that kind of get you on the right path? Yes, no, maybe, kind of, not really, don't know. All right, well, I'm going to stop the broadcast, and I'll stay on Slack if you guys have questions, and I'll try to answer them there. All right. See you guys.